It's showtime! The political geography and the cultural geography of Europe. We have just left Asia. We've already discussed Europe's physical geography. Today, we're dedicating it to cultural geography. Europe is one of the most densely populated areas of the world. We talked about Asia and how densely populated it is. It is indeed the most densely populated continent on the world. Europe is right behind it. Unlike North America continent and Latin America and Africa, Europe has more people living in it per square mile than any other continent in the world except for Asia. And within Europe, Europe is highly urbanized. That means many people in Europe live in cities and towns. Over 80% of the people in Europe live in cities and towns. The other 20% living on small farms. Europe has many large cities that serve as centers of culture and trade. And these cities are cultural hearths in which many of the fashion, art originate in these cities and spread out to other points of the world. Some major European cities that are major cultural centers are London, England, Paris, France, Rome, Italy, Barcelona, Spain. As you see in this diagram, you can see what the dynamic is for the population of Europe. With having a lot of people in the city, there are some problems with living an urban lifestyle, living in the city. It leads to urban sprawl in which much of the farmland is being overtaken by city development, such as factories and housing for the people that live there. Cities are situated on different sites that help a city in its early stages protect itself from its enemies. Such is the case of London, where it is built on a river, the Thames River, which is a major transportation route for goods and people in England. You also have Paris, which is built on an island in the Seine. A civilization or a city being built on an island has its advantages, that it is surrounded by water on all sides, thus preventing enemies from getting easy access to the city. You could also build a city on top of a hilltop, such as Rome, in which the natural elevation provides defense for the city. As you can see, enemies coming from miles around. Also, it is harder for an opposing enemy to conquer a city when it is on a hill because it's more easily defended. Such is the case also with Athens in Greece. It was also built on a hilltop. Europe has many different ethnic groups, language, and customs. And when we talk about ethnic groups, we really need to talk about ethnicity and what it means. People can be divided into different ethnic groups according to their language, their religion, their race, and other cultural attributes. There are many different types of languages spoken in Europe. People in France speak French. People in Spain would speak Spanish. People in Italy would speak Italian. People in the UK would speak English. And the customs are even different. Many of the holidays that are celebrated in Europe are not celebrated in the United States. And the way that they celebrate these holidays is much different than what we would find here at home. Most people in Europe are Christians, but there are different types of Christians. The two most prominent Christian groups in Europe are Roman Catholics and Protestants. European culture has spread to other parts of the world through various means and ways. Because Europe has many ethnic groups and types of religion, there have been several conflicts in regards to this. There was an ethnic and religious conflict in the Balkans just north of Greece from 1992 to 95. In this conflict, there were warring religious groups, Muslims and Christians, that warred against each other. And many of the Christian ethnic groups were accused of genocide. That means the systematic killing of people from other ethnic groups. The United States intervened in this, and this situation ended in 1995 with the separation of these two warring religious groups. But there still is an ongoing conflict in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom. The population is split between two religious groups, the Catholics and the Protestants. The Catholics fought for political power, and the Protestants fought to retain power and remain part of the UK. The Catholic population in Northern Ireland want to break away from England and form their own country. The Protestants are wanting to remain loyal to the English crown and the English government. This confrontation has become very, very bloody and has been going on for hundreds of years. And it's led to countless people losing their lives in massive bloodshed as people turn to gun battles, bombings, and other things to cause disruption and lead to the split of Northern Ireland from the United Kingdom. European culture has spread to other parts of the world due to a couple of different factors. A, exploration. Much of the world was explored by different explorers from different European countries, such is the case with America. The early explorers from France, Portugal, Spain, and England all sent exploration teams over here to chart out the New World. B, colonization. After the New World was explored, many of these countries sought to establish colonies and leave contingent or people behind to help start new settlements. And lastly, imperialism, C. This is basically after many of the European countries went through the Industrial Revolution in the mid-15th century, they finally had the resources to build bigger, faster boats, to build weapons and make weapons, to help them conquer weaker civilizations throughout the world. The Europeans started to explore the world, as I said earlier, in the mid-15th century. The first Europeans to explore were Portugal and Spain. These countries were looking for a sea route to Asia in order to buy spices such as cinnamon and pepper. European countries colonized other parts of the world, both in Latin America, Asia, and Africa, and North America. Colonization is when a group of people from one country settle in another country. Here's some different areas that these European countries have colonized back in the mid-15th, 16th, and 17th centuries. Portugal concentrated on colonizing the South American country of Brazil, and Timor in Asia, and Mozambique in Africa. Spain concentrated on Mexico, Central, and other countries in South America. France concentrated on colonizing Canada and parts of the Caribbean. The United Kingdom colonized Canada, United States, parts of the Caribbean, the continent of Australia, and the country of New Zealand. And the Netherlands concentrated on colonizing South Africa and the remaining countries of the Caribbean. As we look at the areas colonized, pay note to the Netherlands. We discussed this when we talked about it in Sub-Saharan Africa, how the Netherlands, the Dutch, colonized South Africa and exploited it for its natural resources, such as diamonds, gold, and coal. Here we have a picture of this where the Spanish colonized and their influence. Notice the many countries in the western part of South America and the southwestern portion of the United States, as well as a country or two in Africa. Here we see the Portuguese Empire, in which you see the settlement in eastern Brazil, as long as the west and east coast of Africa. And we see how busy the French were in the early 15th century, as they colonized much of Canada, much of Central Africa, and Asia in the Indochina area. Imperialism is when a country takes over another country. European countries take over other countries and regions all over the world. They did this to control the natural resources and also compete with their other European countries who were establishing colonies at the time. Imperialism was made possible by the Industrial Revolution, which I discussed in an earlier slide. The Industrial Revolution was a period of time from the late 18th to mid-19th centuries that would put from 1850 to approximately 1950, when the machines replaced human labor in factories. People were able to produce goods at a much quicker pace. The most important machine invented in Europe at this time was the steam engine. With the steam engine, Europeans could make trains, steamships, and better mining equipment, and eventually better weapons. This allowed them to take over other parts of the world rather quickly and efficiently. So, if you had to name the single most important invention during the Industrial Revolution that led to the rapid expansion of European countries to other parts of the world, it would have to be the steam engine. And this concludes European Cultural Geography, Lecture 1. Stay tuned for Part 2.